And right here, I got special guests today, guys. And I'm not even gonna say their names. I'm gonna go ahead and introduce themselves, guys. Guys, go ahead.
Yeah, hey, I'm Nick. I'm Nick Ortiz, Sergeant at Arms for the awesome Brown Berets. A writer, sketch comic. I don't know. Maybe add that. D enthusiast.
Whatever checkbox fits.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, right. Fill them all out, man. Well, my name is John Cervantez. I'm the leader in chief of the awesome Brown Berets. And shoot, I'm just happy to be here talking with you, man. It's pretty cool.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for joining me today. And
Having
yeah, we're here at El Perritos, and like I said, I do a little food reviews here, and I also do a lot of interviews, talk about comedy, culture, the 3 C's in my life: comedy, culture, comida. That's what it's all about. And so you guys just had El Perritos. What did you guys have?
So I had the Chuco chili cheese dog. Yeah. 10 out of 10. And you know the thing is okay. So me personally,
And now you're just saying that because you're here.
Oh yeah. No. So when I'm not doing like Brown Beret stuff, I also do like a fast food podcast.
Yes.
And I'm no schlub. All right. You know, I'm no schlub when it comes to food. And yeah, definitely. The best part is like when you have a chili cheese dog. Traditionally, the chili cheese dog oversaturates the bun. Didn't happen. Not at all. You know what I mean? It held its shape the entire time. That's just to mention just the structure of it, but also the taste of it in general was spot on. Definitely. And usually I don't like beans in my chili. That may be controversial.
Yeah, no, it is very controversial.
Yeah, I don't like beans in my chili.
But you said
I fuck with it heavy.
Now, if you guys don't know about this, if you go look at my previous season 1, there's a couple episodes. If you scroll up, it's actually Cheesy Gordita, right?
Yep, Cheese Gordita Bunch.
Podcast. Me and Nick did our first podcast way before a couple years back. Was that before the pandemic?
It was before. Yeah, it was before the pandemic.
So before the pandemic. So that's how long I've been doing it. That's how long I've been doing my podcast, guys. So go check out that. That was season 1. This is season 3 now. And my next guest. What did you think about the hot dogs?
I got the dog stick.
The dog
I'm
skin.
guessing it's a play on words, you know.
Yeah.
Pretty damn good, I will say.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, dog stick.
The dog stick.
How would you think? I know you tried some too. It wouldn't be real. Like I saw Nick just like going at it, double fisting it. You know. Me personally, I was hitting here with my
taking his time.
Yeah, my fork and knife, little bits, And I enjoyed it, man. It was really good. I took my time with it, like super saucy, and like Nick said, like stayed together the whole time, dude. I give it 11 out of 10 if I could.
Did you taste the chorizo in it?
I did. That's the thing. And that little salsa verde también.
And so the chorizo is actually specifically made only in El Paso. And it's chorizo de res, and it's made by a little company called Peyton's. And they never sold it out here in Central Texas. It took them a while to sell it, like because I would search for it like endlessly. When I was living in San Antonio, I lived in San Antonio, and I was like, man, fat people, they gotta have this shit. They gotta have it. Nadie, bro. Nobody had the chorizo, and so like I would have to go
make an 8-hour drive
and buy like a ice chest full of frozen chorizo and bring it back and slang it like I was a chorizo plug, bro. It's like chorizo. I got like a whole bag of them right here.
Regular chorizo.
This is not your regular chorizo, and that's how popular this chorizo is. Now I can get it at my grocery store.
Oh, really? I actually, HEB?
Well, yeah, and in Leander they do. I know that for a fact because Leander where I live they sell it, and I don't know if I know they sell it at HEBs. I just don't know if they're like specific ones that sell it, but it's out there.
Man, my HEB don't even sell homemade tortillas anymore. When I moved up to like the Allendale, Burnett area, they like sold homemade tortillas. About 2 weeks into being there, they stopped selling them. And then they just recently stopped selling guac. I know this like I should be making my own shit for sure.
No, but still, like HEB guac, it's different though.
It does. It's good.
And a lot of people don't realize this too. It's a Central Texas thing. Don't get mad at me. I'm not taking their side. And a lot of people from El Paso, they're watching my stuff. They're like, hey, watch what you say. I'm like, no. The San Antonio, they got some good food there, and it took. I lived there for 10 years. My wife was there, so I had to eat there.
Yeah.
But they had some good stuff where I'm like, okay, I'm only going over here. And that was one of them, it was one of the things that I liked from over there.
Oh yeah, HEB, they got some good shit. But like once they stopped selling the tortillas at my place, now I gotta go to like Riverside, you know what I mean, or something. And I don't know, it's like a 30-minute drive, and I'd just rather make my own at that point. Fuck it.
And so we had the food review, great food. Thank you guys for checking that out. And so another thing I wanted to talk about. So if anybody didn't, if you didn't guys catch that at the beginning, you guys are Brown Berets,
Yes.
right?
Brown Berets, yeah.
Can you explain to my viewers and listeners who the Brown Berets are and what do they do?
Sure, I can go ahead and start off. I'm sure Nick will pick up wherever I leave off. But Brown Berets, man, have been around since like 1972. You know, historically they've been in Austin since 1972, but they've been in like LA, California scene from like the 60s. Right along, like, you know, civil rights movement in Vietnam, stuff like that.
For sure.
But it wasn't
movement.
Chicano movement, exactly. You know. But even then, like I said, like 1972 is when they picked up here in Austin, and I was lucky enough, you know, I didn't know it at the time, but my great grandparents were involved in the original movement here in town, so that's where I fit in. But I'm sure Nick has something to say too about, you know, his history and how he sees it.
And I do want to say, just like prefaces at the top, like we only are going to speak for the Austin Brown Berets.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Like any other Brown Beret organization, we can't speak for them. We can only speak for the Austin Brown Berets. But yeah,
chapters.
Yeah, the Austin. There's a bunch of other chapters. So absolutely, in a bunch of different states. Like, there's a Brown Beret chapter in Milwaukee because there's a rich history of Chicano culture in Milwaukee, and nobody ever believes that shit. Same with like Michigan.
Denver.
Well, yeah. I mean, Denver's a part of Austin.
Yeah.
So you know.
But a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that. There's
co-opted Colorado. White people co-opted Colorado.
Oh, you've seen that.
Oh, yeah. No, but we're a Chicano organization who believes in self-determination, who believes in fighting for all oppressed people. We're against all wars. We're against I would say the current society that we live in the sense that how oppressive it is towards Chicanos. I mean, look what's happening in Florida with that bill that they had passed that made it to where like it was criminalized even more if you were an illegal person.
If you're undocumented.
Yeah, if you're undocumented, you know. So we stand up for all people who look like us. I mean, as Chicanos, it's our right. You know, there are a bunch of people who look like us who don't have the ability to do what we do, so we gotta do it.
Right.
And even then, like even in modern terms, even going into it, like there are people that look like us that aren't necessarily Chicano or Mexicano or don't identify as that, or like Mexicano or Americano. Pero son Puertorriqueños or like, you know, Cubanos, así, you know, Salvadorian, you know, Salvadorian, you know, it's all the same thing. We're all going through the same oppression, you know? So we don't at this point, you know, exclude anybody from helping us out in this fight. That's where we're at, you know.
Okay.
And I think that's really important to like understand, especially like with the Austin chapter, like in particular, is as Chicano activists and Chicano nationalists, we don't like recognize, those borders, the borders that, split up like all of the Mesoamerican diaspora. Mm-hmm. It's just not something that we're willing to recognize. So yeah, I think to kind of put a nice little top on who we are as an organization, what we believe in as an organization, and what we do and try to propagate, while we're out.
Right. And that's interesting because like a lot of people that I've encountered here in Austin, Chicanos in general, like Mexicanos, whatever you want to identify with. Yeah. People that of my color and my blood, I've talked to them, and they don't know who the Brown Berets are, and I'm like, how could you not know? Yeah. And like so, we had a conversation a long time ago, and right before our podcast when I was like really into looking at this, I call it my MySpace days. My MySpace days, I was pretty heavily into looking at joining. Yeah. And when I was reaching out, I didn't get a lot of positive feedback from the old veteranos. Yeah. They were just kind of like, we've been there, done that type stuff, and like, let's just do a little barbecue at the parks, and it's like, okay, but what are y'all doing? Like, but what are y'all doing? So it never aligned to things that I saw that they never, to me, it was something that I never saw that they did in the 60s that they're doing now. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like, but now that times have changed, I've seen that a younger generation like you guys are picking up that slack, and I'm like, wow, that's great. And it's also a risk as well. It's like because you are a target, and that was one of the things that I realized when I was younger. If I was really out there doing things, like your face is out there, and that's a risk that you have to take, and that's something that I really couldn't get myself, even though I do comedy. It's like I put my face out there. But I think I'm doing that as well. You know, as far as talking about some of those things in my stand-up. When I go out there and I do stand-up, I do have a lot of jokes tied into a lot of like, what are we gonna bring innovation to Texas? You know, what are we gonna? It's like we gotta make a train station the shape of Greg Abbott's wheelchair. You know, it's just let them have it. You know, just let them have it. Go Brandon stickers all the way, boom, 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 fast into the Vladi Police Department. You know what I mean? Like, I stick it to them where they're gonna listen, and it might be like I might get that. Ooh, I was like, but you heard me, right?
Yeah.
I'll stop in my set. You heard me, right? Okay, good. And then I'll go into a joke. You know, it's totally opposite.
But I mean, the thing is like it's that's the way. Like as Chicanos, like we are kind of fatalists. You know what I mean? Like we laugh at our pain in a sense, in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? It's in our culture. You know, the way we view death is completely different to where like you know Europeans view death.
We've always viewed that differently.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And we're as cynical as like that may be to like an untrained eye, like we find a lot of joy and a lot of humor and a lot of comfort in that. And I think there is a risk, but I think that's the risk that we've all like come to understand is like we could like either way we're targeted by the police.
Right.
Either way we're targeted by government agencies. Right. You know what I mean? So I don't know. My thought is like. What's the difference? What's the difference? Like now I'm actually like politically aware. Right. Now I'm politically engaged, and you know I still run the risk of being pulled over by cops, being dragged out, and like shot in anyways, regardless of whether I'm an activist or not.
Right. So I may as well go down with the ship.
Yeah.
Right. The motherfucker's thinking. I may as well go down with it.
I don't think that's not like our goal at all.
Right.
The goal is to never go out there and sing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the goal is to go out there. Like I don't want to go out there and be martyred.
Right.
But like
the waters will be choppy though.
The waters are gonna be choppy.
Yeah,
the waters are gonna be choppy.
So have you guys ever been threatened before already? Have you guys encountered that anti Chicano and the racists? Have you guys been threatened?
I feel like, especially in Austin, being so political, being like the capital of Texas, I feel like most of the time they come in real sly like, and they kind of like they chip away at it. You know, I mean we've seen a few that are kind of like shiesty.
Yeah, like when the clean event, where people
that's right. They pulled up to the corner store. We're talking about that.
Like talk shit to us.
Yeah, talk shit like what are you doing here? Like, you know, why? For what? Dude, and it was when I unfortunately forget her name. You know, it's because it happens so damn often. Yeah. Recently, the last Killeen, we went out there to protest a little bit. And I knew he must have heard about it. He lives in Killeen, you know, so he pulled up in his truck and just talking the most shit that he could, you know. And without being too violent or too pushy, you know, but stuff like that. And
I mean, generally people don't like really like talk a whole lot of shit to us. No. You know, like on occasion, like whenever Raj Moon Singh was murdered by the Austin police, and we put out a statement. Some fucking bootlickers went on there talking about like you shouldn't have had a gun. You don't know the whole story. And I was like, no, this dude was a law-abiding citizen with his Second Amendment, had every fucking right to be out there, and was still gunned down by the police. Like before the cop even identified himself, he was gunned down. Yeah. And like, would that have happened to a white man? No.
Probably not.
You know what I mean? No. You know what
Absolutely
I
not.
mean? Yeah, exactly.
Because they don't happen in Westlake.
Yeah, exactly. They don't happen in BKs. You know, like, that's not where it's happening. And like that's the shit that we'll get. Yeah. And like it don't really bother.
And are you from Austin originally?
Yeah. I'm from Austin.
Born and raised.
Yes,
awesome.
sir. As I mentioned before, like my great grandparents were
in the movement.
Originally in the original movement here in Austin, and then generations before that, they were like in the Austin, like Kyle area, so like South Austin, deep South, and then like East Austin
they were here before it was called Waterloo.
Yeah, most likely, yeah. Indigenous too, man, like Kickapoo and Apache too.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been recently going back and kind of doing a little ancestry hunt.
Nice.
And been using a lot of just, I was very fortunate to grow up around my elders where my mom had us real young. So like her grandparents from my great grandparents, and like her uncle was my great uncle, so I was exposed to that old generation. My old uncle was a Pachuco in El Paso, and so a lot of these movements that started with that during that era in the 1940s, and I was already aware of those things that happened. because of what was going on at that time, the things my uncle would, kind of reference. And when I see old pictures of him, I'm like, I kind of put two things together. When they had those riots,
Zusu
riots,
Yeah.
and like everybody, there's a debate. I had a comedian in my previous podcast was like, hey, do you know what how they got El Chuco? And I was like, well, yeah, there's two different versions to the story. And I go, I know the version that was told by my family, and you probably heard another version that was told by somebody else.
Yeah.
And the two named reasons for Pachucos is because the Pachucos would flee from LA, fleeing from those riots.
Yeah.
And they would congregate in El Paso. El Paso was the point. And El Paso was in Vamos Pachuco. That's where all the Pachucos would conjoin, and they would be the ones.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
And that's when I grew up. And then so when I got up older, then there was like a different whitewash. It's like, no, they would say that because the people that were living, that were able to work, they had a shoe company, either in El Paso, and so the workers would go to cross the border, Vamos Pachuco, for the shoe company. Pachuco, like for the shoe company. Pachuco is like, so is it like a loss in translation, or is it like?
But isn't that like our history?
But it's our history. But like that's the thing. Like here's where I have a debate with big people that have like history debates with me.
Yeah.
You have your history. I have mine.
Yeah.
I was like, you can't tell me how my history was born. You
Yeah.
can write it in the book, and you can see who was published by. But my history comes from my family.
Yeah.
And that's what I know. I go, but whatever you're telling me about my history is your perception.
Yeah.
And that's what you read, taught by a person who was not of color, written. So there's two sides to that story. And like I tend to lean on a lot of history that's been taught by my elders, histories that's been taught by local activists that were involved there in the community before I was. There's an activist that I follow. He's an artist, writer. He's written a couple books called David Romo, Dorado Romo. He wrote this book called Ringside Seat to a Revolution. And he's a micro-historian that wrote about the perspective of the Mexicanos there that were engaged in the Mexican Revolution.
Okay.
And a lot of history that was taught by our own people that was lost and was whitewashed by white writers, and trying to make this gunslinger, old style West type history to Mexicans were only bandidos, this and that. And there's a lot of unknown history about Dorotero Arango, which is AKA Pancho Villa, which people don't know about, where he retaliated against Americans because of things that America did. And so like we have a lot of perception of people that of our own history where it's just not correct, or there's some.
I mean, what is it? Everyone's told what Pasola was originally made with human meat. Like that's what people think is like Pasola was originally made with human meat. When in reality,
you mean like pozole?
Yeah.
Or like menudo or something like that?
Yeah, because they said we had no beast of burden, and because of that, there was no way that we got that type of protein. So they said they contributed to cannibalism. When in reality, we ate like fish and shrimp and chicken.
There was so much. It's a mixture. What I'm starting to discover when it comes to that portion of history, because I'm actually reading the codex. I'm reading the codex, and I'm learning.
But those are all like written by Florentine monks.
Florentine monks, but the translation is written in actual Nahuatl. And so, like that language, that translation there's so many Mexicanos that were part of different factions that were in central areas when the Europeans came. And from what I understand from that history is that there was a group of Camalism that were engaging in that. And when the Spanish came, from what I understood, is that they were like, no, we can't do it.
I'm always skeptical of that
and
shit.
that's what I'm saying. But because I haven't seen it in the codex.
Yeah,
I haven't seen nothing written in because our history is written in stone.
There was a great library in Tenochtitlan that was like burned by the Spanish. You know what I mean? Like there was a lot of our culture lost, and they do a lot of that stuff to like continue to dehumanize us. I mean, that's what they're doing look at what they're talking about with Mexico now, talking about potentially invading Mexico because of the cartel.
Right.
When in reality, Mexico just found a lithium mine, the largest lithium mine in the world, and they've nationalized it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they're doing
Right.
this because they want to justify
Right.
us invading. And the U.S., the powers that be, the Europeans, they've always had a way of dehumanizing us and allowing the general population to view us as these monsters. I
Right.
mean, look at the movie Sicario. You know,
Right.
look at all this propaganda that's out there.
Mhm.
As much as I love like Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, but you know, all of that shit was to make us look bad. You know, what I mean?
Criminals.
Exactly, we're the criminal, we're the sneaky Mexican, we're the
Yeah,
greaser.
yeah,
You know,
And it's all, and so that particular portion supposedly was, you know, was true, but like I said, I'm looking for it. I can't find anything on that. So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of BS. But at the same time, it's like, well, there's a lot of things that were back then where you even had like indigenous Mexicans fighting along with the Spanish to take
Yeah.
over some other area here. It was all different factions. And
Yeah,
it's,
for sure.
it's very interesting shit that I'm reading.
well, I mean, Cortez like what burned his boats.
Yeah.
He sunk his boats whenever he landed in Mexico. You know, so like. Yeah, the Mexica were some fucking people, you know what I mean? And I think that's one thing that like with like Chicanos and Chicano nationalists is we all kind of like lump our identity into the like the Mexica when they're like the Zapotec, you know what I mean? Like the Maya, the
everybody wants to
Yaqui.
categorize all at once,
Yeah.
and it's like there's so many different, and I think that's what makes us great as people in a whole is that we have so much complexity. to
We're
us.
fucking so complex.
So complex, you know, and like I grew up, you know, non-traditional, as close to a border town as I was, you know, like my mom didn't emphasize us speaking a lot of Spanish.
Yeah.
You know, and it wasn't a fact of like we're too good for it.
Yeah.
It was more of a fact that she knew her elders, and her elders before that were chastised for speaking in American, around Americans.
Yeah.
And so her emphasis was like, don't speak. And she doesn't want you, it's not that she didn't want me to, it's just like, I don't want you to go to the same segregation that we went through.
That's why I find that like the No Sabo kid like notion, like
Mhm.
it's so dumb. But like it's it's very much so like rooted in like
Can you explain what that is?
yeah, so it's like if like someone were to speak Spanish to me, I'd like, you know, no hablo inglés.
Oh yeah, no sabo. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and like for me, like growing up, anytime I would like speak any type of Spanish, even I just did it now. You know what I mean? Like I'm so like nervous to like, or not, I lack the confidence in it.
Right.
Because every time I'm around, you know, like my, you know, like aunts and uncles and all that stuff that speak Spanish, and I started like trying to like say anything in Spanish, I'm instantly like, no, that's wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not like a gentle like.
No, and that's just the way our people are. It's
And
like you're
that's what I'm
saying
like,
it
all right,
wrong.
bet.
But it does discourage you. But at
Oh,
the
yeah.
same time, you know, it's like, you know, you can also take it a grain of salt. And then I guess I learned it at the same way. Estoy aprendiendo también, cabrón.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm learning. Like give me a break. And then you know, as soon as I give them shit, then they back off. I'm like, all right, pues okay.
Yeah.
And like that was the same thing with me. You know, like with stand up. You know, like stand up in Spanish is totally different. You know,
yeah.
and like I try to set like 5-minute set. Horrible.
Oh, really?
Horrible to the point where the guys in the audience is like, hey man, just go ahead and speak English, bro. We got it. We got it.
Dude, yeah. I would like I wouldn't even try it, dude.
Yeah.
Like when I opened for like Carlos Mencia and shit, and like everybody else on the show had Spanish jokes. I didn't.
It's okay
Yeah,
though.
I mean, I get
But
it.
that's the thing that's a lot of things that I hate about our culture is that we dismiss that.
Yeah.
We dismiss that without owning it. You know what I mean? And I think that's something we should own because that's also just a part of our. I went to New Orleans and a friend of a Mexican comedian over there. You know, he told me Jorge Velasquez. A lot of comedians like, well, I don't have any Mexican jokes or Mexican comedy. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, everything you say is Mexican jokes. You know, it's like you're Mexican.
Yeah.
Like everything you say is like, so you're already segregating yourself, right? You're compartmentalizing yourself in your mind that you're only this is the only way here.
Isn't that like the duality of being Chicano though? You know what I mean?
What do you think?
As far as like It's always like, you know, how it kind of like, what is it, you know, everyone here sees, you know, I mean, probably your viewers too, since, you know, it's like we're always like 2 Americans for the Americans and 2 Mexicans for the, or, you know, what I mean, or never
The Selena quote.
The Selena quote, exactly, the Pops, what's his name,
Abraham.
That's right.
No,
yeah.
well, Abraham, the
Exactly. So you guys, yeah,
Quintanilla.
but yeah, you know, we're always like not American, not American, not Mexican, not Mexican. They're in the middle of the whole with Chicanos, you know what I mean? So it's like,
How did you feel growing up here in Austin? Did you feel that difference? Did you have, because like I grew up in a border town, my experience was different, and like I'm always curious to see like how Chicanos grew up here in Austin and how they were like. What was your experience?
definitely, man, yeah, definitely, like, still the same thing, not here nor there, you know, it was hard to find friends, and like a lot of my friends were like Mexicanos, you know what I'm saying, and like I'd always try to kick it with them, you know what I'm saying, and like roll with them, but it'd be hard, especially when they get to speak Spanish and shit, you know, because although my mom, like you said, my mom does speak Spanish at the house, so my grandparents, my dad didn't pick it up, but like, you know, me being around that too, and I understood that's for the exact reason. That's why we don't speak Spanish, is because we get fucking criticized.
Right.
And I saw it from like carnales, the Mexicanos, Puerto Mexicanos. They got the shit on the stick. You know what I mean? Like, they got treated like absolute shit. You know what I mean? And like very like a lot of I want to say ignorance, but it's not ignorance. Like they just ignored them.
Right.
As a whole, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Me on the other hand, I was right in the middle. Where I wasn't like a grade A student, but I also would be able to talk to the teacher and be like, hey, I'm having trouble here.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, oh, fuck, well, there, let me see, hurry, like, I can help you. You know what I mean? Like, but so they would be like in between, man.
Yeah.
I wasn't getting the shit in the stick, but they still weren't treating me the best.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I recognized that early on, and like, you know, there's a reason why I didn't get like a scholarship or like, you know what I mean? All this kind of shit is because I was always in between, you know, so I would just skating, but kind of like Indiana Jones in it every semester, or like, you know, I would, at the end of the semester, I'd have to like hustle up, you know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so
Hell
like,
yeah.
just catch up. You
So
know?
let me ask you one more question. So what got you thinking about getting more involved into the movement and taking that role as a leader?
Sure, man. So it really got me sparked up, and that's like I mentioned earlier, like growing up my whole life, you know, I like to call them like, you know, cold garage talks, you know, the deals of like shooting pool, drinking beers, you know, hanging out, smoking the reefer, you know what I mean, hanging out, you know, and the stories start getting told about great grandma and great grandpa and how they were just, you know, straight gangster with it, you know, and not the gangster like they're out here like attacking walls and like doing drive-bys and shit, but like making moves for the community and like for the people, like, oh, you need a venue? Let me make a few calls and we'll get you a venue this Saturday, you know what I mean? Because I know a guy. That kind of like Al Capone shit, you know, and you know, and that was all like they really glamorized it, but it wasn't that. It was just the fact that they were doing work in the community that they lived in, so they had access to these resources. So it's not like they're Al Capone or Al Pacino or Scarface, none of that.
They just had the insight.
They grew up in these communities, they work in these communities, and they build these communities so that when they need it, they can utilize these communities. So you know, that's what I learned, you know, as I grew up. You know,
That's great.
But what really kicked it off for me as far as like this.
It's over. It's over. You can. I'll edit it down.
That's okay. So like Brown Berets have always been like a household name for me. You know, I heard it growing up since I was a little child, running around, like I said, cold garages. You know, but it wasn't until about 2019, 2020
there.
when like the Vanessa Guillen thing kicked off. You know, that's when I like I need to get up and like go to an event and like see what's up. Right. So me and my ex went out there, and we went out there, and I saw this familiar shirt, and it said Brown Berets across the back. You know, across the shoulders.
Right.
And I tapped the lady on the shoulder, and I said, hey, you know, that's really bad that shirt. Where'd you get it? Because again, it's a familiar thing. You know what I mean? You know, we got connected. Lo and behold, I ended up finding where I wanted to be as far as what I was looking for. Got a hold of like a veterano. You probably, you know, might have crossed paths at one point, or you mentioned it earlier. And he started mentoring me, you know, and from there, he mentored me for about 1.5 years, going on almost 2 years. And then he passed away, you know. And from there, you know, a lot of crazy men, a lot of other chapters from Texas showed up for this viejito, you know, and you know they recognized me as like his right-hand man. So, you know, it's kind of like the next chain of command. You know what I mean? Is he's on top, and now that he, you know, has
so it's kind of generational.
Boom. Now they're like, all right, fool, like, you know,
it's your turn.
Now they're like,
show up and blow up.
I mean, that's the thing is like that's why they saw him as that, because he was showing up. You know what I mean? He was, because when I was here in Austin in 2018, it was a very small chapter.
Right.
You know, it needed the like vigor of youth.
Right.
You know, and I think that's where John Cervantez came in, was able to like give it that heart, that oomph that was needed for probably a couple decades.
And that's great, man, and that's good too. That's a great story too. Like, thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
And I had an opportunity to check y'all out, and at this Cesar Chavez March this past March.
Yeah.
So it was great seeing you guys out there, and like just the representation. That someone's out there, and I think that's resonates with a lot of Mexicanos out here, and in general, just having that representation out there, man. And I think that means a lot. And I think hopefully with this podcast, people are going to be more aware of who you guys are and what you guys do and what you guys are about. I was just kind of surprised that people never heard of y'all, and I'm like, and I was like, well, what are they? I was like,
I think
you guys.
it goes back to your when you were talking about education earlier. I mean, even now in Texas, we're struggling with Chicano studies. We're struggling to keep Chicano studies and ethnic studies and shit like that. So, like, no wonder people don't know about us. People know about the Black Panthers because the government was able to kill all their leaders and make it so public.
Everybody's seen Forrest Gump, whether you lived it or hated.
That's true. That's true. Matt, maybe we need a Forrest Gump, but like a Mexican Forrest Gump.
Hey, Flamin' Hot. They show the Brown Berets in there.
Do they?
Yeah.
Do they?
Yeah, they talk about the Chicano
Flamin' Hot.
movement.
Check it out.
Paid advertisement.
So when you guys have mingled with other chapters, do you all get along with other chapters? Yeah, everybody's cool with each other.
And it's funny too, man. Before I came along, because I had talked. This way it works is we're part of like a leadership group, and further down the line, I involved my right hand man here, Sergeant Arms. And this leadership group that we got, it's like almost like a group chat, but we're in modern times. Writing letters.
It's a coalition.
It's a coalition, but and that's the thing, so everyone is a beautiful thing, but they were telling me like before, like, we started moving as like a unit, like it was really like rough, real choppy waters and just rough, like how I guess conflict in between these two chapters kind of deal. But that, whenever they recognized that I had no idea what the fuck was going on with any of that, they saw, I guess, maybe like a fresh start. Like, cool.
Let's drop it.
Let's just drop it. Like, this guy knows nothing about that. Let's just drop it. Like, he means good things. So let's just move it that way.
Well, I definitely see you guys out there, and it's really great to see you, and if you guys go check out their page, what is your guys' page?
ATX_Brown Berets on Instagram.
Pull it up.
Show it to the camera. Show it to the camera. That way,
we're not on Facebook.
No, that's okay. I watch y'all guys, and I see you guys involved in the community, and that's something that, like, I've seen, like, old pictures of the 1960s and stuff like that. I was like, man, that really resonates with a lot of things that I've seen the original people come out and really do that. And so it's not just something that people want to be a part of just to look cool.
Yeah.
Check it out, guys. So follow them. Oh,
I don't know if you can get to that or not, but
I say just show them whatchamacallit.
it might be the show them the page. That'd be
us,
good.
man. We're up here.
ATX Brown Berets.
I don't know if you can see it or not, but that's us. But we'll share a link in there.
I'll post a link in there.
Appreciate it.
But definitely see a lot of positivity, man, and that's something that I really love to see, especially with our own culture, our own people, like especially like with comedy. Comedy can be so toxic sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And we've had this conversation before where other Mexicano comedians putting each other down. And like
Ralph Barbosa.
I have been it's just that mentality. I had a couple of comedians where we had talked about that, and I think we're more unifying now, and I think we're recognizing ourselves like that after this George Lopez and Ralph Barbosa issue. Like, I think people are taking notice because a lot of people came up and defended Ralph. And sweet baby boy, shout out to Ralph. It's that humbleness and that humility that really stands out within our people as well.
Resonates heavily.
And it's something that I want to vibe with when I'm around in comedy. So like when I'm in comedy, I try to work with a lot of Mexicanos. I try to work with a lot of Mexican comedians. My show is called BorderLaughs. Ha spelled with a J-A.
Yeah.
So it's heavily influenced on Latinos, but at the same time, like, there are Latinos that it's very hard to work with.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just, sometimes it's a loss in communication, sometimes and there's some times where I had to like, look, bro, let's sit down. Let's sit down and you and I talk about it and we work out our beefs. And after that, we've been friends.
Yeah.
But they know how I felt. They know, like, and they knew what I was about.
It is communication.
And
I think
it is a lot of
it-
communication
yeah.
because it's just a lot of people watching but not saying anything.
But it's also machismo.
That is too.
A lot of it is machismo. It's
Male toxicity.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of validity to that,
Yeah,
you know, and
there is.
especially like the idea of individuality and individualism. Like as people, you know, as indigenous people, we're like community based.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Very collective.
Yeah, that's why like as Mexicanos, like whenever we look for like therapists, we should look for therapists that like center a community, because like white therapists will tell you, hey, set a boundary with your mom, drop that bitch out of your life. You know what I mean? Whereas like we can't deal with that because that's just not who we are as a people.
Right.
And I think that one thing that I think you've done really well is not only talking about, because you had me on the show, like what, 3 years ago, but like I feel like you've done a lot for like being able to cultivate Chicano Latino culture in Austin, especially when it comes to like the comedy scene.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
It's really important, you know, especially when it comes to resistance, especially when it comes to building that political awareness, you know, because as a young Chicano, I wish I would have had someone like talking about that in comedy, you know, like instead of like don't get me wrong, I fucking love the George Lopez show, but George Lopez was kind of a scab, you know what I mean? Because he was like the head honcho of the factory, and you know, he kind of shit on other people at times, and he looked down, you know what I mean? It's like we need people who want to help build community.
Right.
We need people who want to help build up other people, and
that's all right. That's the end goal. Is, you know, regardless of how you feel about me, you know, I'm gonna try to work with you, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But at the same time, it's like I acknowledge and I move on, and it's the same thing. Like, you know, there's a lot of people that, you know, did me wrong. You know, it's when my own people did me wrong. It's like, well, how could you, you know, your own people are, you know, shitting on you? It's like, well, dude, like, here's the thing, man. I was like, what if I never did it? You know what I mean? So it's like at least there's something there. There's something that we can build on or work on, and that's something that like I take, you know, with me to like try to better myself, you know, and like it becomes a lot with like self-awareness and understand, okay, maybe, you know, I should do something different, but at the same time I try to help a lot of people, and especially with, you know, Ivan with this business here at El Perrito, you know, he came over here, he's bringing our style here, and I was like, man, that's something I want to be a part of, you know what I mean? Like this is my hometown food, you know, like, and what better way, you know, to get people's attention than food and comedy, you know what I mean? So it's like one of the two things that are one of my favorite things in life. And
so I do want to say something though. You talked about El Paso, like Mexican food.
Yeah.
I'm from San Diego. Alright, and that's some good ass fucking Mexican food.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
That
El
shit.
Paso is just a different beast, man.
It's crazy how, like, you know what I mean? It's like different, and it's all like the same like genre of food, but it's fucking vastly different.
I compare a lot of like, I love colombiano, I love cumbias.
Yeah.
And if you listen to cumbias and you listen to Aniceto Molina, if you listen to like, what's dude's name? There's some other cats that I listen to. I forget their name, but I'm listening to their music and I'm like, well, why do you listen to a lot of cumbia? It's just the same shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, listen to the lyrics. Listen to what they're talking about in the song. You know, Frito Olivares, de me sube colesterol, mamacita. I put that shit on blast. You know why? Because I need to take care of myself. This motherfucker is talking like, you know what? He's right.
Hey, Mexican music was that first emo.
Yeah, and like you listen to this is mi estilo. You don't like this is my style. If you don't like my style, fuck off.
Hell yeah.
You know, and every little Colombiano has that little style. Like, you don't like my style, right? This is my style. Aquí está, míralo, escuchan eso, and like listen to this. You're gonna like it. You know what I mean? And it's like, all right. You know, so it's like, but I compare that with like comedy too. Like, we're all the same, but like we're different. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, you've heard of Mexican food, but you're gonna like my style.
Yeah.
You heard of George Lopez and Gabriel Iglesias, but you're gonna like my style. You know what I mean? So that's how I approach a lot of things, is cumbia style. You know, hey, forget it. We're all doing the same shit, but here's my style. You know? And I growing up, had a lot of influence. One of my first comedians that I started listening to was Pablo Francisco. Three Amigo tours with Carlos Mencia, Pablo Francisco, and Alfred Robles. Not Alfred Robles. I keep calling Alfred Robles. Shout out to Alfred Robles. His opener for fucking Freddie Soto. Freddie Soto was another comedian that came from El Paso, and he was Richard Pryor's driver, limo driver.
Oh, that's cool.
And he ended up getting up on one of the biggest tours with Carlos Mencia, Pablo Francisco, and he was from El Paso. And I was like, hell yeah, we got a fucking El
That's
Paso
fucking awesome,
comedian
yeah.
out there. Motherfucker died. he had to die from a cocaine overdose. And
The way to go.
yeah, right. But that was one of the first comedians that I saw like, this guy's badass. You know, this guy's like one of the ones that wanted me to do comedy, and kind of like, if this dude can make it, like, hell yeah, it gives me inspiration.
Fuck yeah.
Do you have any comedians that you looked up growing up?
Man, shit. Yeah, a few of them are Chicanos, and like Dave Chappelle, Rich Pryor, Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
Classic.
George Lopez, Mancia, Fluffy, Metal Fluffy, and stuff like that, man. You know, and I'll be real, like Chappelle especially, like I feel like his style of, you know, punchline, you know, he writes his fucking jokes backwards. And like as soon as, you know, there's always a punchline with Chappelle, man. So yeah, I feel like Chappelle would probably be one of
your top, yeah.
Hell
for
yeah.
sure.
Okay.
For sure.
And you, what's your favorite?
I love J.R. Brown, man.
J.R. Brown.
Brown?
Oh, Brown, the
Yeah.
local guy.
Hey, he's from Killeen. What are you talking about? He's from Killeen.
I was like, really? That's your guy?
mean, he's funny.
We're talking
He's
about
funny for
Carly.
sure.
We're talking about no,
Yeah.
this guy. No shitting on J.R. Brown, but he never let me open up for him, so fuck him. Nah, just fucking.
Where's the subject? Anyway, how do you feel? What's your favorite kind of taco?
I know, right?
Yeah,
Just switch it up real
yeah.
Switch it up really quick. Shout out to J.R. Brown. He's cool as fuck.
Right on.
He's funny as fuck too. He's got the guitar and the fucking sound effects.
I accidentally opened up for him because he did like a New Year's Eve show that me and like Adam were on. You know what I mean? Like I was not at a good level at all, and the fact that I shared that stage with them, I felt really bad.
Nah, it's all good. Yeah.
But I would say growing up, you know, the greats. You know, you don't know how many times I've seen that fucking George Lopez. HBO stand-up special with like the blue curtains. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's how it was.
Oh yeah. Also I watched a lot of George Carlin when I was a kid.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, and
Oh, I forgot one.
who?
John Leguizamo.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
And his new special, that one on Netflix, that gives a history of
history from
Yeah.
Mimosos or whatever.
Man, he nailed us, man. He nailed us really good as far as our history.
Check it out.
Check it out.
I told you, fool. I told you like
You
months
gotta tell me
ago.
that. You gotta tell me that.
He does a really good rundown of our history, of the colonization that happened, and like this, he got the Mexicanos right, he got the
Oh,
Puerto
yeah.
Ricanos right, like Tajinos,
Like history for burros or some
yeah,
shit. Right?
yeah,
Something along the
so-
lines of that, you know?
great stuff. So,
Okay.
so is there any literature, guys, that you recommend, that you can recommend to my listeners to kind of get up involved in the?
This guy reads. You know,
We talked about some of this because I got a lot of books too. So like,
Insurgent Aslan.
okay,
It's a great book. It's by Dr. Ernesto Mireles.
Okay.
He's a Chicano studies professor from like Michigan. He was part of the Chicano movement in Michigan.
There you go.
Like in the early '90s, they like tried to like ban Chicano culture, and what they essentially did. So it's not about this, but it touches a little bit on it. Is like they locked up all of the books in a U-Haul van. Took that bitch to like an undisclosed location and left it there and was like, if y'all can't learn, we can't learn our history, you're not gonna be able to learn your history.
wow.
Yeah, and because of like the way the school is a research center, they're able to do that.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have to tell him where it was going. So I mean, the dude's a badass guy. He's also like the secretary of La Raza Unida.
Okay.
But yeah, Insurgent Aslan, fantastic fucking book.
Nice.
It talks about cultural resistance, the importance of cultural resistance. It cites a bunch of really great authors as
Cool.
well. That's a good book. And then of course,
Through Brown Eyes, Juan Perez.
Yeah.
It's a book about Brown Beret, work in Dallas by Brown Beret from Dallas. In fact, the leader of the Dallas chapter back in the, I want to say 60s, 70s.
Nice.
Yeah, so that, I mean, I have written it myself. I do have a copy, so we'll check in.
Awesome. It's all good. Now I'm about to order this one. I like studying about. There's this book called Dreams of Freedom, which is basically manuscripts that were written by Ricardo Flores Magón, which were Magón. The Magonistas were the ones that were anarchists that inspired the revolution to happen in Mexico. They inspired Zapata. They inspired Pancho Villa, and they were the first ones. And they were political prisoners here in the United States that were shipped over here, that were exiled here to the United States, and they ended up dying in prison. There's another book called Bad Hombres that talked about them too. So very interesting stuff that really that runs about what I like as far as where our Chicano aligns as far as our history. So that's a cool book to check out, guys.
Oh yeah, that's check that one out.
So guys, this has been another episode of BorderLaughs podcast, guys, and I'm really glad you guys came to do this food review with me, do this podcast with me, and I appreciate you guys' time. If people wanted to find you online, how could they find you guys?
Yeah, ATX Brown Berets. Look us up on Instagram. We are not on Facebook. We are on Twitter though. ATX Brown Berets. ATX _Brown Berets.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Follow us on there.
What's your? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was saying if you're interested in joining, send us a message. We'll send you a survey. You know what I mean. We'll put you through all the proper channels.
Yeah.
But
it's a really simple process actually too. Just a few general questions, and then we'll get you in for like a Zoom interview. And then after that, like you qualify basically for to show up at one of our meetings, see if it's for you. So and then that would start the process from there.
Guys, go check them out. They're doing great things in the community. Go follow their page. Really positive stuff, guys. And this is what I'm trying to capture here in some of my podcasts. And so this has been another great episode, guys. And again, I want to invite you back probably to another episode in the future, and we can talk about some more stuff. And I think right now I'm just out of time, so we're getting into some really great conversation though. But thank you so much, guys. Shout out to El Perrito for helping us and helping us sponsoring and letting us do this here, guys. And if you like this episode, please like us. Subscribe to our channel. Just Josh and Comedy is where I'm at. Also, BorderLaughs podcast, BorderLaughs _podcast is on the Instagram page, and I also have Facebook page. You find me on every platform, guys. This has been another episode of BorderLaughs podcast, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Ate wacho.